Going to talk Crystal Palace's trip to Arsenal a little bit later on. In the next few minutes, actually, we'll talk about Arsenal and their perspective going into what is an amazing run of 14 games in 38 days. They're in the second of those this evening. Oliver Glasner's not happy about the disrespect shown to the Conference League as well. We'll discuss that with Simon in the next few moments. The third episode of our brand new talkSPORT Daily podcast series is out now as Angelina Kelly, Alex Crook, Rory Jennings and Adrian Durham and Gabby Bonahor bring you the 12 hot takes of Christmas. In today's episode, they discuss whether Manchester United fans should take a leaf out of Manchester City fans' book and be more grateful, and if Arsenal would have been better off signing Dominic Calvert-Lewin instead of Victor Gyökeres. The latest... I don't know. I don't know. Well, I'll tell you what, why don't we tune in to the talkSPORT Daily podcast and
see how little we can learn.
By the way, it was Alex Crook advancing the Calvert-Lewin argument, right? Okay, so
good.
If you want to get involved in that, then he's the target of your ire. So the 12 days of Christmas, the 12 hot takes of Christmas, available on the talkSPORT Daily podcast feed. Would a Carabao Cup triumph even touch the sides for Arsenal fans? Would that be enough to satisfy their thirst for major trophies? Mikel Arteta celebrated his 6th anniversary as the Arsenal boss over the weekend. He's won an FA Cup and 2 Community Shields to show off in his trophy cabinet. Is it unfair and simplistic to say that all they've done over the course of 6 years is just win an FA Cup?
Is it unfair or simplistic? Isn't that the raison d'etre for media observations? To make it simplistic. Yes and no. It is unfair because I think he's recreated a whole feel about Arsenal that wasn't there for some time. There was a managed decline under the last years of Arsene Wenger. There was the missed opportunity of an elite manager in Unai Emery that was not taken because he followed Wenger, and there was just a general ambivalence towards him and a ridicule over the way he spoke the English language and things of that nature rather than necessarily what he was capable of doing as a football manager. So Arteta has brought back this sort of passionate feel about Arsenal. Their fans are fully engaged. The stadium is an intimidating place to be rather than a library that it had become. They've got a very, very significant squad. He's been backed. The change of ownership from Usmanov being finally prepared to sell his shares and Kroenke taking control of the football club has changed their thinking from being an arm's length American subsidiary. They're now a football club that gets heavily invested in, buys very good players at the top of their game rather than necessarily worries about how much money it's making and competing to stay in the top 4. Yet, all of that hasn't brought any trophies besides a team that he inherited. So he does have to answer to that. And I think he has to answer that this season. Because I would expect Arsenal to win the league this year. I expected Arsenal to win the league last year. They fell away. And some people would have answered the fact that they've improved in Europe as a reason why they didn't win the Premier League. They've got to be able to compete on both fronts. They've got a good enough squad to do both. I think Arsenal can do both. I think they can win the Premier League and I think they can win the Champions League. And if they don't, I think it can be considered a failure this season.
What, if they don't win both?
No, if they don't win either.
Right.
If they win both, I think it's a remarkable achievement. But I'm saying that they have the capability of doing that. Okay, there's a small matter of teams like PSG to overcome, but notwithstanding that, you catch people in a cup competition on a bad night, you get an opportunity to do so. So if he doesn't win anything this year, I think that has to be a failure. And if that's a failure, then what does that look like going forward?
Do you think it's interesting because when you said first of all he got an FA Cup with a team that he inherited, and instinctively I would have thought, don't underplay the fact that they've won the FA Cup and that he did that as soon as he came in with a team that he didn't want to play, a style and a manner and an approach that he didn't want to play. They played behind the ball, they counter-attacked, they won both the semi-final and the final on the counter-attack, and he put his hands up and said, I don't want to play like this, but we had to do this to win this trophy.
Because it's sensible.
When you listen to him now, and I spotted this on Friday, and I gave it to our producer today, Ollie, to listen to, he doesn't actually consider it as a major trophy win.
Pretty rapidly maintaining it something that is very, very difficult, and you need a lot of good people and very aligned people to achieve that. I think we have that in a really strong and solid way, but all the things socially, the transformation has been around the club in terms of the size, in terms of revenues, in terms of the squad that we build, the value of the sporting success that we had, even though we haven't won any major trophy yet. I think it's very, very consistent, so we're in the right place.
We haven't won any major trophies yet. I mean, I wonder if that just sort of tells us how much he values the cup competition and where they are.
He'll take them if he's there.
The Premier League and the Champions League will be all end all.
If they can win cup competitions, then Arsenal will take the opportunity to do so. but their primary focus is to win what they consider to be major competitions. And there's nothing wrong with suggesting that the major competition is the Premier League and the Champions League. I think the Premier League is the competition that managers like to win, because it's like the old Brian Clough mentality, isn't it? Is that you're judged over a course of a season as a manager with all the rigours and vigours of playing what he had to play, which is a 42-game season, what they have to play, which is a 38-game season, and you get all of the attributes of what management really is involved, because you have to do it over 9 months against a backdrop of very different difficult teams and managing players, and even more so in this day and age where players are the commodity that you've really got to manage because they think they can do and say as they please. I think there's nothing wrong with him saying Arsenal, what was great about the Arsenal team of the 70s and 80s, that were a cup team. They were a cup team. And, great, everyone remembers the 1979 FA Cup final round and Sunderland scores the winner in the last minute against Man United, but they have bigger fish to fry, and they haven't been given this huge investment to be a cup side and to win cup competitions. They'll take them if they're there. They're lower-hanging fruit. He wants the Premier League. He should be applauded for that outlook. He should be applauded for the attitude of saying that the major competitions are these, because that's what they are.
To me, it comes across as someone who's got drive and ambitions to win the top prizes. And actually, if you
he should have.
Over the course of the last few years, you know that he is only interested in restoring Arsenal to being a complete contender for the Premier League on a season-by-season basis. He feels that's where the club should be, and it should never, ever have standards lower than that.
Nothing wrong with that, is there?
No, absolutely not. But can a Carabao Cup win help you achieve those aims, though? Because it's like the success fueling success.
Why? How's it helping Newcastle?
Well, I thought it helped Chelsea when Jose Mourinho walked in the door, that they felt like winners after winning the Carabao Cup.
In 2004?
2005, and City, if you remember a couple of seasons ago, would go on these.
Well, it did also help that they bought some of the best players in the world.
Well, same with City.
Well, sure.
But it makes those best players in the world feel as if they're part of a winning team.
But with respect, Mourinho was coming in as a Champions League winner. He wasn't coming in to win a league cup.
Chelsea had never won anything before.
Well, they won the FA Cups.
They won the FA Cup, but they'd never won the league since 1955.
No, but they brought in someone to do it.
It changed the attitude.
But the owner changed the attitude. The likes of the circumstances at Arsenal and Manchester City and Chelsea are different to Arsenal. They are clubs that have been created out of one man's will to desire to give these clubs this blueprint that was there and to supersize it. So Chelsea were doing okay with Ken in charge. They were perhaps heading for some financial difficulties, but they were doing okay. They were respectable as a club. They were stabilising the Premier League, and they were winning certain things and giving themselves an opportunity to be competitive. Claudio Ranieri was in situ at the time. When Revich comes in, bang, the whole dynamics change. They're not just shopping in a certain space now. They're shopping at Harrods dawn till dusk, every hour of the day, buying the best players, and they bring in the best manager in the world. So you expect Arteta wasn't the best manager in the world. Arteta was a fledgling manager learning his trade at Arsenal. Mourinho was already packaged up as a Champions League winner, already thought he was the best thing since sliced bread, and did precisely what he said he was going to do on the can, which was defy the conventional wisdom, tell everyone what he was going to do, and then go and do it. And did the League Cup help it? Yeah, sure. Did it hinder it? No, of course it didn't hinder it. But was it the reason why Chelsea kicked on? Probably not.
Do you think that Mikel Arteta...
Otherwise, your argument would suggest that Arsenal would have kicked on after the FA Cup.
Possibly, yeah. I think the difference is now is though that they've accumulated a squad that is prepared to win the league, as opposed to when he took over, which was all about just getting over the line.
Oh, of course, and that's why he must be given lots of credit. But he hasn't done that in isolation.
No,
he hasn't done that in a vacuum.
And he's been the driving force behind it.
Well, the driving force behind it has been the preparedness for the board to give him enormous amounts of money to achieve it.
But they've had to trust in his process in order to get there.
Of course, but by the same token, it's like a chicken and egg. He's had to come in the door and been given some degree of support. At the same time, they've continued to support him and raised the bar and kept on spending hundreds of millions of pounds to give him an opportunity. So the question then abounds, at what point do you win something? And what does winning look like for Arsenal? Does winning look like being a competitive side contending, to use your terminology, to win the Premier League, or does it mean winning it?
Well, you said he's got to win something.
I think he's got to win something. I think he's got to win the Premier League. I think there's very little excuse for him not to win the Premier League this year. I don't care about Man City and their engines and their experience and so on and so forth. You're in control of your own mind, your own destiny. Your outcomes are your own. You've been close 2 or 3 times now. This is the time. You've been given all the tools, your centre-forward requirements that people so patently said you needed because you couldn't play the fella that they bought from Chelsea up top. And now you've got centre-forward in Gyökeres. Everything's in play. Look at the squad they've got.
No,
Look at the squad they've got.
It's the most balanced squad in the league.
I
I think he is.
I think so. Age and experience. Chelsea have got a good squad, but they haven't got enough age in them.
We might continue to discuss this after the break. 14 games in 38 days. I don't know if that's sustainable, especially if you're Oliver Glasner. 29th game of the season tonight for Crystal Palace. They haven't got a big enough squad, despite what you might say about Arsenal. I watched them last Thursday night, and they had to play all the kids. And actually, some of those kids were absolutely brilliant. Maybe we'll see some of those tonight live on talkSPORT. A Finnish side who had won.
You ever heard of them?
The Finnish champions.
Well, you probably have, Stato, but most people hadn't.
But yeah, do you know what? I'd never heard of them until this year.
Oh, okay.
There you go. You're listening to Matterface and Jordan on talkSPORT with Serco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade goes. See, I'm not as sad as you think. Next, we'll be taking a look at the other side involved in tonight's Carabao Cup quarter-final, which is live on talkSPORT. Crystal Palace